Hello, boys and girls. This is Mr. Kizik, and in this video, we're going to be looking at how do we find missing sides using the trig ratios that we just talked about. So we're still going to have to know the different trig ratios. We're going to need to know SOHCAHTOA. The sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. What's nice about this is that essentially what you're doing is you're just setting up your problem to see what trig ratio it is, and then the rest of it is just using a calculator. So you're going to need a calculator for this. Now, if you have a regular graphing calculator or scientific calculator, that will be the best thing to use. If you have a Samsung phone or an Android phone, and you use that calculator, that should be fine. If you have an iPhone, even though I'm not a fan of iPhones to begin with, I'm saying this because it's important. You cannot use the iPhone. I mean, you can. It's just that you're going to have to do everything backwards than what I'm doing on here, and that's just going to be annoying. So make sure you have basically any calculator except an iPhone. Sorry to say. So if you have an iPhone, either get a calculator that can work, or as I have up here, go and just type in scientific calculator in Google, and this will come up, and this will be fine. Now, as it says right up here in the top right corner, we need to make sure your calculator is in degree mode. Now, how do I find that out? If you have a regular scientific calculator, just a normal everyday thing, nothing fancy, no graphing about it, it will have on the bottom of the screen, it'll have like 3 choices, and one of them will be lit up. If it says DEG, you're good. You're in degree mode. If it says anything else, there's a button on your calculator that says DRG. You just keep pressing it until degree is lit up there. If you have a graphing calculator, in order to get it in degree mode, you need to press mode, and then a screen will pop up, and then I forget how many lines down, but so many lines down, it has the choices radians and degrees. You want to arrow down and then arrow over to the right and press enter so that degree is highlighted. Then you can press clear or second mode or whatever, second to quit it out there, and you'll be in degree mode. If you're using this online calculator here, I know I'm in degree mode because if I look right here on the right, degree is high, it's bold. Radian is bold, so that's in radians. Degree is bold, so I know degrees. So, and this is what usually happens. Usually students understand how to do this, how to set this up, and it's just because their calculator is in the wrong mode, we get it incorrect. So make sure it is in degree mode. All right, so now how do I set up these problems? Well, what you want to do is you want to talk about the relationship of the side with the angle that's given. It's never the 90-degree angle because, as we talked about before, this won't give me it won't help me get my answer. So like in number one's case here, there's 28 degrees. That's an angle that I relate the sides to. So if I look at x here, is x opposite of the 28 degrees? Is it adjacent to 28 degrees? Or is it the hypotenuse? And you would say it's the opposite side. Now what's 19? Well, it's not opposite because we already took that over. So it's either going to be adjacent or it's the hypotenuse. In this case here, it is the hypotenuse because it's opposite of the 90-degree angle. So now going back on our sheet here, which trig function deals with opposite and hypotenuse? That would be sine. Sine of, now math, when we talk about angle measures, the variable we use we call theta. Sine of theta equals the opposite over hypotenuse. And now all I'm going to do is just plug in everything I know. Everything I boxed right here is where a number will go or vary. So sine of, what's the measure? 28 equals opposite, which is x, And then hypotenuse we said was 19. And now we solve for x. And this just becomes algebra and an equation. How do I solve for x? Well, I get rid of the fraction by multiplying each side by 19. So x equals 19 sine of 28. I would write it like this here for ourselves because this right here, sine 28, that's a number. If I plug that into the calculator, that would give me a number. Those go together. So sometimes students do 19 times 28 and do sine of that and get an incorrect answer. And actually, I will show you on this too. So now there you go. What do we do now? We just literally go to the calculator and round our answer to the nearest tenth, as it says. So I'm going to go to the calculator and type in exactly what's there. 19 times sine 28. There, and round my answer to the nearest tenth would be 8.9. So my answer is around 8.9. And see, this is why I would write it like that, because if I say I did this here, sine of 28 times 19, or I'm gonna erase the whole thing, isn't it? Yeah. Times 19. You might think, well, what's wrong with that? What calculator is doing there, it's doing 28 times 19 and then taking the ratio of sine of that. So if you do it like that, you have to make sure that you put the parentheses after the 28 there to get an answer. All right, so let's look at another one here. Let's look at number 2. So in relation to 41 degrees, what is x? What is 32? Well, x is opposite of the 41 degrees, and 32 is adjacent to 41. So which trig function deals with opposite and adjacent? That's tangent. So tangent theta equals opposite over adjacent. Let's fill in the blanks. Tangent of 41, because remember, this is always an angle measure, equals opposite x over 32. Now this becomes an algebra problem. Solve for x. So x equals 32 times tangent 41. And I go to the calculator. 32 times tangent 41. To the nearest tenth, that would be 27.8. Number 3. In relation to 21 degrees, which is in this corner right here, x is what relates to that. That's adjacent. And 26 is the hypotenuse. So which trig function deals with adjacent and hypotenuse? It's cosine. Cosine theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Fill in the blank. Cosine 21 equals adjacent x over hypotenuse 26. Multiply each side by 26, and I get x equals 26 times cosine of 21. Calculator time. 26 times cosine of 21, 4.3. So again, all I have to do is just figure out what's the ratio with given the sides and angles I have, what's the trig ratio I would use, and then set up your problem and do some algebra and plug it into the calculator. So I want to look at problem number 5. So again, in relation to this 33 degrees right here, what's 15 in relation to that? That's the opposite. And x is a hypotenuse. So going back here, which trig function deals with opposite and hypotenuse? You'd be correct in saying that is sine. Sine theta equals opposite of hypotenuse. Fill in the blank. Sine of 33 equals opposite 15 over x. Right now you might be thinking, oh, well, this is different because x is on the bottom. How do I solve for it? It's still algebra. And just like what you learned back in algebra, you want to give a fraction, so you got to multiply each side by x. So I have x equals sine of 33 equals 15. It's still not by itself, so I got to divide each side by sine of 33. So just like I said before, that's number with the trig function, they go together. So it's not like you divide by 33 and divide by sine. It's divide by sine of 33. And this right here is what I plug it into the calculator. So I'm going to do 15 divided by sine 33. And that's going to be 27.5. Let's look at one more like that here. So for number 6, that's 43 degrees. This side is adjacent. That's the hypotenuse. Which trig function deals with the hypotenuse? That would be cosine. Cosine theta equals adjacent of a hypotenuse. Cosine of 43 equals 36 over x. We solve for x. So x cosine 43 equals 36. Then divide each side by cosine 43. And this is what we put into the calculator. So 36 divided by cosine 43. And around 49.2. And that is how you use these trig ratios to find missing sides, and also how you use your calculator